Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicolas Richardson. Today, in this series of episodes, we're looking at Poland's geopolitical situation in Europe and in the world. And who better to talk about this than my guest, Albert Swieczynski, who is Director of Analysis at Strategy and Futures, a geopolitical think tank. Albert, thank you for joining us on Poland Daily History.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And I think that let's get straight into it. I mean, one of the things which has defined Poland's geopolitical role in Europe, is, of course, is its geographical situation and essentially this flat European plain.
That is correct. Poland's geographic location is a blessing and a curse, depending on how you play your cards in this precarious position we find ourselves in. And Poland is indeed located on the narrowest point, well, the center of Polish statehood, located around the Vistula River, is located in the narrowest point of the northern European plains. And also, this being plains, there are very few natural terrain obstacles whenever there is a troop movement. And what obstacles there are usually rivers, and they very much channel the movements. They shape how the campaigns occur, how the troops move, how the strategies are created in the Polish war theater.
Yeah. So, of course, given Poland is essentially flat, you've got the Baltic in the north, you've got the mountains in the south. So, in these massive troop movements, which we saw in the 17th, 18th century, and indeed in the 20th century, all the activity, all the movement is funneled essentially across Poland. You've got the Pripyat marches in the northeast, which also has an effect of channeling troop movements.
Absolutely. The interesting, of course, you can, looking back at history, you really could see certain patterns repeating themselves, especially when it comes to war in the east. As you said, the Pripyat marshes are important. There is the ever-important Smolensk Gate, which is located between the Dwina and Dnieper rivers, which again is an absolutely crucial geographic spot as far as Poland, immediate neighborhood of Poland goes, because at different times in history, the Smolensk Gate has been under the Polish control. And then because there are so few natural terrain obstacles, the rivers are ever important, and you can see, for example, in 1931 rather, or in 1920, the same patterns repeating themselves in certain stages of warfare. And the interesting part, well, you could even say that certain events in 1944 were also shaped by that.
I mean, that's quite interesting. It's probably worth pointing out is when in 1920 the Red Army stopped at the Vistula. This was a miracle, indeed. The Battle of Warsaw, the miracle on the Vistula. When in 1944 the Red Army stopped at the Vistula, this was considered to be a major disaster and very unfair. And it's quite interesting how context can actually change our view of essentially the same event: Red Army, river.
Absolutely.
And halting.
Well, I would imagine Red Army had many practical reasons for not engaging, or rather political reasons not to try and take Warsaw. But apart from that, there is also the way the banks of the Vistula River are shaped, which again played a role in 1830, played a role in Tuchaczewski's plan in 1920. And basically, the right bank of the Vistula River is very soft and long. You could see this even today with the beaches over there.
Oh yes, indeed.
However, the left bank, and again it's immediately visible, is rather tall and steep. And this time and time again plays a role, because essentially what that means is you don't take Warsaw via frontal attack. No. You don't just cross the river. It would incur horrible and very significant destruction of the attacking force, of the offensive force. So this is this geography defining how militaries interact with our battle space.
And I think it is worth pointing out, if you read any battles at sort of anywhere, at more or less any time in the modern era, rivers do play a significant. Armies generally because they have to stop at rivers. So there was nothing particularly sinister about the Red Army stopping in 1944, although of course the circumstances had a tragic legacy.
Well, they had nothing but sinister intentions. I have no doubt about that. But at the same time, they would incur terrible costs, horrible costs, if they tried to frontal attack Warsaw. It's just not what you do. If you try to take Warsaw, you do what Paskiewicz did when he crossed the Vistula River in 1831, close to Włocławek, up north, upstream, and then you can take Warsaw from the side, from the west, where it's unprotected.
Which I think actually, in my reading, is probably, if we can put cynicism aside, which is obviously very difficult when you're dealing with Stalin, but if we can put cynicism aside, I think it was probably the original intention of the Soviet forces to actually, and if you look at how they'd taken other cities on their way to move across Europe, it was their intention to sort of come round Warsaw and attack, as you say, from the west. It was never, ever really a plan to have a frontal attack. That
is correct, and that also meant that during the Warsaw Uprising, the Germans had to keep the Old Town and the river crossings. So any attempt at taking those by the Polish Home Army during the uprising was doomed to meet significant resistance, which it did.
Okay, well, Albert, thank you. That's been a very useful geopolitical setting and putting the Polish geography in context. And later we'll look at some more specific examples of activity.
Absolutely.
Based on that geography.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.